Hey guys, it's Dorsey with Low Country Drain Tech. Sorry for not posting a lot of videos here lately. We've just been swamped with work, and we're trying to beat the summer heat here. We're out in one of our local communities that we do a lot of drainage work for, and this is a double racquetball court that has a water issue. Not only water underneath the court, but the watershed coming off the court is insane. So the courts are pitched from this area over here this way. It's about 4 inches low over here, so most of the water runoff just sheets right off the back of here, and what happens is they just get a big river running along down here and into their community pond that's a swimmable pond. So what happens is once that river comes down underneath that picnic table, blows out down here, and they have erosion problem. We're going to do a bunch of work down over here, which I'm going to show you. I'm super excited about to make a bunch of videos. I got Brandon on the Wacker Neuson SM100 tracked loader, but you can kind of see what we got going on here. French drains going all the way around. I'll show you in a second what that looks like. But I really just wanted to make a point of this video and title it, how to build a good quality French drain system in the South. French drain, man, they're kicking ass, taking names up north in Michigan, and I wanted to talk just a little bit about the aggregates that we have available to us down here in the South, and a lot of people resort to using like a 57 granite stone, but I'll show you what we use, and that's the number 4. And I've tried a lot of different stones, but this seems to be the one that works the best. So Brandon's coming around the track. Let me get some more stone in this trench, and then I'll get right back with you. 1 second. Alright, so Brando's on his way to get some more stone. We just got some more in this trench here. But let's talk about aggregate real quick while we got a second before he comes back. The biggest thing is, and what I've learned through watching contractors, through forums and stuff on different websites and everything else, is obviously the bigger the void, the more water you're going to be able to move through your aggregate. So using a pea gravel or something like that on French drains, it may work for a while, but there's a couple downsides to using an aggregate like that. One of the biggest ones is if you're using just a normal ADS knife cut perforated pipe, sock or not, what'll happen is, without the sock, it's a little worse off if you have the small aggregate, but you just shouldn't use it, period. But what'll happen is, let me grab a piece here. What'll happen is that if you use a pea gravel, number one, over time you'll just get compaction in it. Let me show you real quick what I'm talking about. So this is just the ADS. This is socked. This is non-socked. We actually are using some non-socked because they just completely sold out of the socked pipe, which the golf courses bought it up. It's pretty typical. But what'll happen is if you use the pea gravel, it'll get stuck down in here, and it'll actually block your knife cuts. And you give it 6 months and you probably will have a drainage system. This is not working, and you spend all that labor, effort, especially as a DIY. You know how, if you've done one of these drains before, you just know how much effort they take. But on top of that, it just doesn't have any voids. It doesn't move any water. So what we've opted to use is the number 4 granite here, and this is about as clean as I can get it. I get it right off the train from a company called Conrad Yelvington, and they're good people. But what you can see here is that it's not super clean. It's got fines on it. This is about the best stuff you can find for the value. Most customers aren't going to want to pay for a round rock from Michigan or wherever else, Pennsylvania, wherever they're getting it. That's going to cost them, $200, $220 a yard. It's handled like 3 or 4 times before you can get your hands on it. And it just doesn't have a lot of value. And I've probably put in 5,000-6,000 feet of French drain with this number 4 and have had 0 problems. So aggregate's huge. You do all this effort, you box your trench, you use your laser level, you make sure it has positive grade on it, you make sure that it's draining right. Maybe you test with the hose or whatever else. We don't do that anymore because we just take the guesswork out of it. But either way, you do all this work, you get your fabric put in here. You can see we have 2 separate pieces of fabric. This fabric here is our actual drainage fabric, and that's, well, the other fabric's drainage fabric too, but This fabric comes from a company called Haynes Geo. Look them up on Google. Maybe you have one close to you, but this is their N04 fabric, I believe. It's a, I'm not sure. I'll stick it right here, whatever the thickness is of it, but I believe it's a 4 ounce. It's a great fabric, double needle punched, non-woven geotextile. That's what you want to use. I don't care what anybody else says. I've tested it, I've tried it. It's what the French drain man uses. Check him out on YouTube. He does great work. We got the double barrel right now. One's socked, one's unsocked. It's just kind of how it ended up with the supply right now. We got some couplers taped in. We don't like to waste anything. But yeah, you want a good fabric. Go longer and shorter. What you don't want to end up doing is burrito wrapping your drain and then you're short on fabric and you're having to like Frankenstein a piece in there. That's not what you want. So building a good quality drain, biggest things is obviously aggregate, and second is a good fabric. If you can't keep dirt out of your system, then what's the point of even building it in the first place? You want something that's going to last forever. That's what you try to build something for. At least that's how we do it here at Drain Tech. So give me 1 second, we'll get some more rock in this trench. I'll get back with you. All right, he's on his way again. We've been on this job site for, it's now, today's, I don't know when this video is going up, but it's July 25th. We've been here since the 6th of July. So we've had a lot of rain, sporadic, big rain events. It's been a lot of trouble. So either way, we're getting it done. We're getting it in. You can kind of see we've got the irrigation all plumbed through the fabric. That's the way to do it, to be honest with you. Smallest hole as possible. Take your sprinkler heads, or your irrigation heads off, and just plumb it through the fabric. It's okay if it has a small little gap. The point is that the fabric's covering most of your subsurface soil and keeping it separated from your drainage aggregate. The longer you can keep your drainage aggregate clean, the longer your drain's gonna last. Anybody can, well, maybe not anybody, but with the right amount of effort and consideration and preparation, anybody can build a really nice French drain. You know, it just differs on how much effort it's gonna take you. Obviously, we've got the Mini X, we've got the SM100, so that expedites thing. I don't think this job would be possible in the time constraints we're working without those two pieces of equipment. Either way, I started doing this by hand, and we've grown to the size we are, and all we do is drainage work. Some grading here and there, but either way, drainage aggregate number four granite here in the south. I really swear by it. I learned everything I know about drainage for the most part. You know, obviously a lot through trial and tribulation, but through this website. So if you guys got anything to add, stick it down below. You know, I mean, this is how we learn together and how we figure out problems and stuff like that. But you know, there's just little things that you learn with experience. Like our watershed's coming from the quartz. This is our main goal here. It's the groundwater is a small issue compared to the sheet water coming off of this quart, and it sheets pretty evenly, which is nice. That's why this will work nice. You know, but there's little things to consider. Like, okay, if your water's coming from this direction, what you don't want to do is send this piece of fabric closest to the area where your water's sheeting off of. You don't want to burrito wrap this over first. Okay, reason being, if I did that, right, and I did this piece first, and then I brought this piece over, right, what happens is, let's say it's burrito wrapped like that, the water can actually sneak underneath this piece of fabric. So the orientation you want it in is like this, with this piece closest to your actual drainage issue coming over. Okay, that way your water, if it's a really big downpour, it'll run across and it'll flood the drain, and that way you get more surface area and you can drain water. Just little things like that will add longevity to the drainage system, because you got little sand in here, people track in, so over years and years, all that little sand will just work its way under, and you're kind of like, your water's just avoiding the fabric in total. But we got another load of rock. Be right back. See the fines that just came off the bucket? That's what I'm talking about. Trying to film. I don't have my tripod. I I had a spontaneous feeling. I was like, I'm just gonna make a video today, man. You know, why not? Show the people what I've been up to. You know, and thank you guys so much, man, for subscribing to the channel, man. I'm excited to bring you guys some more content and friggin' show you what we've been up to. All right, so yeah, man. All right, so we just talked about how to wrap the fabric, and you know, like if you're trying to dry out a yard and you're using this French drain for solely in-ground water problems, let's say the soil percolates real well and you're excavating and there's water in the trench already, you can see it bleeding out of the walls of the trench. Awesome. Like, you know, your French drain is going to work well. I suggest you kind of see the soil composition in your yard. Down here, it's so different. Under all these houses, it's all different. There's blue clay, red clay. I mean, it's just nuts. Some of it's super sandy, loamy stuff that drains super well. And, you know, some French drains are going to be effective in some soils more than others. I mean, that's just the way it is. The best thing to do is, you know, for me with experience, what I've been able to do is kind of, you know, just kind of gauge how well something's going to work, and you can set reasonable expectations for that customer. For instance, like when we do a French drain job for in-ground water solely, like, oh, my yard's soupy, it just stays wet for days. Well, I suggest that you excavate a hole, you know. I'd say, you know, go 12, 18 inches deep, somewhere in there, and, you know, let it sit overnight in that wet area and come back and inspect it. You know, put effort into the jobs, especially if you're just starting out, you have extra time, just do it. And I promise you, you'll be able to set reasonable expectations, because I found myself in a pickle before where, one second, let me turn the camera around. I found myself in a pickle before where, you know, I'll be installing a French drain for somebody, and when I first started, just coming out of landscaping, what I do is I would just be like, yeah, like, you know, French drain works great. And I would just nail it straight through the heart of that wet spot. And, you know, to my surprise, when I was finished 2 days later, you know, it'd rain, and man, it really kicks ass. It makes sure there's no pooling water at the surface. It dries it out a little bit. But I'll tell you what, it doesn't really do what the customer thought it would do and what you've seen before. And you're kind of like, what's going on? Like, what's happening with this drain? Why is this happening? And, you know, you realize that, you know, the soil just is so heavily compacted. They drove a 60,000 pound excavator over it for days and days. It happens to be that one lot they use for, you know, entry into to other homes' constructions. And, you know, you just need to be careful with that. So best thing to do to protect yourself, and I've had to walk away from jobs from some jobs and actually protect the customer's money and say, hey, you know, this French drain is going to kick ass with surface level water, and over time it will begin to work better once the roots in the sod kind of find its way to the fabric, and after water jackets form. French drains, a lot of the time, they work better with time, and I've noticed that with some of those older systems too. So just think about that and set expectations, not only for yourself as a DIY guy, but for the homeowner. And just, it'll protect you, it'll save you so much, you know, it'll just save you a lot of you know, a lot of headache. So once I got another load. So yeah, set reasonable expectations for your customer. Make sure you're not selling them a freaking throne made of gold, and then, you know, you turn around and the thing's just not really doing what you thought it would do. Been there, done that. That's just not what you want to do. All right. What else? All right. Another good point. So 2 ways to finish a French drain in my mind. The only way my company does it, because, you know, I don't see another way to do it really, but you never want to put anything organic on top of your drainage system besides a established sod. All right, so if I had the sod cutter here on the job and we were laying the French drain out here, we would cut this sod out, and that cuts it, I don't know, 18 inches wide. I don't really remember off the top of my head, but we'll take that sod, we'll put it on one side of the trench, we'll excavate, you know, obviously all the dirt we'll take off site. I'll show you that dirt pile. I'll drop it right here in the video of what we've got, and that's for about half of the French drain here. We've already hauled out probably 30 tons, but take the sod out, and, you know, you establish your French drain. You do exactly what we're doing right here. You burrito wrap. Here's a mistake I've made a bunch of times, which it sucks, especially with number 4, is building the stone too high and you don't have enough room to put your sod back in. All right, so be conscious of that. You can kind of see that there is a lip right here. This isn't completely filled in yet, but you can see the lip right here. where I have. So this is low, and when I burrito wrap, we're gonna fill a little more in here, but when I burrito wrap, my 57 granite is gonna go in here as a finishing gravel. This would be what we consider an open French drain. And you can see the lip. You see the lip going all the way down? So we'll add a little more rock in here, but that lip, number one, it'll stop the water from jumping right over the drain when it's a huge rusher, and it'll fill out more area and then rush through the fabric. But it leaves room for the finishing gravel, okay? You can see the lip of the pavement over here. So we'll have our finishing gravel in here, and you don't want it super thick. You want it as thin as possible, to be honest. But you know, when you wrap your fabric, you want to be able to set your sod in there, and I suggest you cut it as deep as possible, and that way when, you know, it gets hot down here in the south or whatever, we don't go long periods without rain. We don't have a drought season really, but if you go without rain, you know, it gives you enough soil to work with so you're not constantly watering your grass. More rock. Boy, it's hot out here, man, in South Carolina, so it's beating down on us. I think we got a little bit of clouds in the sky today. It hasn't been like that recently. We're getting rained out, fighting heat poisoning, so it's we're out here. But all right, so water in the grass. Yeah, make sure if you use a sod cutter, which you should be if you're doing any French drain through the grass. If you're not using a sod cutter, you're not a finished guy. So it is what it is. I mean, if you're gonna just piecemeal stuff back together. But I mentioned before, organic material. So what you don't want to do is finish the top of your French drain with mulch, topsoil even. You want established sod going back on there. And what I mean by that is either brand new turf or the turf that you cut out, preferably what you cut out because it'll match. You don't want a streak of perfect, unweeded, just pristine grass going through there. I've had jobs like that before where we kind of, you know, it just, you know, sometimes you can't really, you don't have good enough sod to reestablish. So just make sure the customer knows, hey, you know, we're going to get a pallet of centipede, zoysia, St. Augustine, whatever, to go back on top down here in the south. Those are our common grasses. To go back, Bermuda, you know, to go back on top of the French drain. And you might have to add a little topsoil just to bring, you know, the thickness to where you want it so that you have enough organic material on top of the drain. But the point is that there's a root that'll grow through the fabric and actually hold itself down. So, you know, I see people finishing with like mulch and stuff like that. It's just, that stuff breaks down and turns back into an organic soil. And if you don't have a root, there's no passageway for water to get through your fabric and into your drainage system. So you kind of just, you might as well just put dirt, in my opinion, you might as well put dirt right back on top of the drain. And that's a cardinal sin in the drainage world. What's the point? You just wasted so much time. Are you going to put, you know, compacted soil back on top of your French drain? Maybe if you solely had an in-ground water problem, that would make sense, but that's not a good practice, I don't think. So what you want to finish it with, what we're going to finish it with, is a 57 stone granite. You can do a river rock, you know, really any kind of aggregate. I would say anything between 3/4 to 1 inch is preferable. And do it thin, man. Don't go crazy with it. Don't do 4 inches thick. Do it as thin as possible. You know, put more of that drainage aggregate in the drain and bring your levels up to where you want them. And then, you know, burrito wrap and put your finishing aggregate on top. And I'll show you what this job looks like. I'm gonna make this video and then I'm gonna make a couple more. We got a paver patio going in between these courts, and we don't do pavers a lot, but we're gonna do a really nice job here. And it's a true permeable patio. It's nuts. I'll make another video on on the construction of that. It's like there's 20 tons of granite over there, but yeah. So doing a good French drain really comes down to effort and laziness. The reason your contractor isn't using number 4 or a bigger drainage aggregate is because he's lazy and he just doesn't want to work with it. It sucks. It doesn't shovel. It's just brutal to work with. It scratches the ground. It tears up driveways. So, you know, I get it. But even when I didn't have equipment, I still shoveled it out of wheelbarrows, and we got the job done right. So bigger the void, better off you're going to be. All right, we're motoring right along here. These quartz are 68 by 68, so about 68 feet of French drain on each, you know, side of this court. There's 2 of them. There's another one on the other side over here. It's quite a big job here. It's one of the biggest ones we've ever done, French drain wise. 544 linear feet. We got another 50 feet of French drain going on this playground with the swings over here and fresh sand. So we'll show you some videos of that. But yeah, we're getting back into it. Dorsey Builds is getting back into making videos. So where were we at? we were talking about contractors not wanting to use number 4. Well, yeah, here's the thing. They're kind of beating themselves up because, yeah, it's more labor to work with number 4, but you use a whole lot less of it. A whole, a whole lot less. There's those words. A whole lot less of material using a bigger aggregate. It just takes up more space, has a bigger void. So number 57, especially the angular stone, it'll compact. So will this number 4 to an extent, okay? I'm not saying it's a perfect stone. It's just what I found to be the most reasonably priced down here and gives you the best result. And also give you a French drain that's not gonna expire. So, and it moves a lot of water. And I've had great success. So this is just based on experience. 57 is a lot easier to shovel. It's a lot easier to work with. It's easy to grade, to make flat. You had this number 4 is very inconsistent. You got some pretty big pieces in here and some small pieces. No, you cannot run a shovel right into here, so you're gonna break your wrists. 57 is a little different, but I just think that this is a much more superior drainage rock. I think that's really it. We've got the irrigation coming, and it's gonna be right dead center in the drain. It's okay. They're 1/2-inch fittings, screw off from the bottom. They won't be that hard to replace. And they're not in a place where they're gonna get damaged or mowed over or anything like that. So I think they might end up going with a steel edging, but for right now, we're just gonna cut a nice line on this grass and just fill in our 57, make it uniform down the way. But these irrigation heads, yeah, they'll be a little more pain in the ass to replace than a normal one that would just be in soil, but they're replaceable nonetheless, so not a big deal there. But let me show you around this job site real quick, and we'll end the video. All right, so down here on one of our corners, this drain here was much too high. I don't know if that's a settlement issue, but we went ahead and lowered that about 3 inches. So it's actually gonna catch some nice water here, no big deal. Just 12-inch dual wall, take a Sawzall to it, make a nice clean cut. We got drain coming around this way, same thing as before. And before you judge me, this job site's got rained on about 5, 6, 7 times in the last 2.5 weeks. So same thing with this drain. We lowered it 1 inch. Don't want to make it a trip hazard, but it was much too high to catch any water. We're going to bring new sod in here, and we'll show you the finished quality product at the end of the little series we're going to do. Okay, so here is the base for the permeable pavers. You can see one perforated pipe showing a little bit there. That's a dual wall corrugated from ADS. Pretty strong stuff. We got another one running here. So this is actually this area between the quartz. See, we smashed the fence right there, the excavator. Big L right there. Either way, this actually is graded here. So we have 16 inches of fall from the front here to the back here, and all of our drainage ties in here. We got separation fabric with all the soil here. This is completely burrito wrapped. You just have more number 4 coming across here, and our French drains come and they tie in here. They come down. We're gonna blow all this off, clean all this off before we install our 57, and then we'll come down around here, and we're actually already tied into this drainage inlet. I'll show you that real quick. We have 4 single wall pipes coming into here. I'll show you that. It's quite the drainage system. You kind of see there's 4 quad stacked, and I don't like how this grate sits on that bell. It's definitely not how it's supposed to be, but that's how they had it before, so it is what it is. We're trying to save the money where we can. But yeah, we have drains coming all the way around. You can see our fabric from the rain just got blown over and stuff. We're gonna fix all that, make it look beautiful, cut a nice straight line on the grass here, and fill in our 57. Like I said, in the next video or 2, I'll show you exactly what the finished quality looks like. It's just been a hell of a job. I'll show you fixing that fence as well. But yeah, Brandon's got another load of rock for me, so let's get that going. You can kind of see irrigation head here. Needs to be lowered just a tad. Don't worry about the grass. Customer to customer, it'll vary. We told them, hey, we'll come overseed. They're fine with that. This grass is it's not award-winning to say the least. Centipede, it's beat up. It's already kind of trashed. It's very heavily foot trafficked. But yeah, we're gonna get the irrigation system working again. We're coming around the court here, and yeah, you want to try to make your drainage look as pretty as possible, but that's what we try to do here at Drain Tech. But sometimes it just it is what it is, man, But we're gonna come and overseed all this grass. Nothing will probably pop this time of year. It's July, it's too hot, but we'll certainly come and put some seed down, and we'll probably come in October again and throw some centipede down or something. It's a slow growing grass, so yeah, more rock in the trench. All right, so one last point here, and I'll show you around the rest of the job site, and then I'll sign off. But is the pipe where it needs to be in the trench. So engineers down here, we've done engineered work, we've done engineered drainage systems, and they've all passed. Everything's been fine. They work well up to this day. Everything's great. But where the pipe is in relation to your aggregate in your trench. So engineers, most of the time, it's either like 4 inches above the bottom of the trench or dead center in your aggregate. Well, that's great. And it sure makes it easy if your subgrade, so your actual trench just in the dirt, no fabric, no pipe, no aggregate, has no grade or it has a little, because you can use the 57 to put the pipe on grade. And that's great. And, you know, I think that's the point and why they do it, because it's easier to install, but it's just going to be a garbage drainage system to start. I don't agree with that, and there's other contractors on YouTube that don't either. And I like to put my pipe at the bottom of the trench right above the fabric. And reason being is I have a dry trench. Like when my work is done, the trench is dry for the most part. You'll have very little residual water, which will soak into the ground underneath the fabric, and it'll be dry. And that's a big deal because, especially on this particular job, we don't have any trees. You can see the palm trees behind me, but they're so far, there's never going to be landscaping around these quartz. So I could get away with doing the pipe in the middle of the aggregate, but the tree roots are your biggest issue in drainage system, is going to be your roots. And if you don't have a dry drainage system, at the end, they will find it and they will destroy it. I've seen it, I've dug them up. If you guys might be experiencing that right now in your own drainage systems, and that's just done. Expiration date, I think, is on your drain as soon as you do that, as soon as you install the pipe, not on the bottom, and you're around landscaping, period. Most of the time, tree roots are going to find their way there. It's a matter of, are they going to grow to the size of a freaking softball and destroy your corrugated pipe, or are they going to stay pretty hairline because there's not a lot of active water there for them and air for them to soak in. And, you know, a French drain for a tree root, in my opinion, is like a ill-made French drain, or a level French drain, or one that doesn't have, you know, great grade on it. It's just a honey hole for a tree root. And we got some pretty gnarly tree species around here, like the crepe myrtles, your red maples, live oaks, you know, to an extent, but really any tree that's, you know, water oaks, pine trees are real bad, you know, especially the loblolly slash pines we have down here, like they'll really get into your system. So the pipe at the bottom allows you to evacuate as much water as possible, as quick as possible from the trench, so that after the rain event, you have a dry system. And I think that's important. I think it adds longevity to the drainage system. And I think overall it's going to give you a better quality product, and it's going to drain a lot of water. And, you know, especially if you have a subsurface water problem, why would you put the pipe halfway up your trench? You want it to be as low as possible so you can lower that water table. If you just have a bunch of water sitting in the gravel underneath your pipe, what's the point of doing it in the first place? You know, you're just going to have a soup sandwich underneath your drain. So if you want to dry out the first 6 inches of your lawn, that's great. But if you want to really get that sucker dry to where your grass can thrive, your lawn can thrive, and everything else, put the pipe at the bottom of the trench. Let me show you what it looks like real quick. We got the double barrel going on here. You could probably do this, or you could do 1 6-inch pipe. That's fine too. But I got them at the bottom of my trench. Trench is on great grade. Over the 68 feet, we got about, I don't know, 8 inches or so, which is pretty good for a French drain, but it drains great. And I've got my pipes, look, underneath them, nothing but fabric. Okay, and then I use my shovel like this. And when Brandon comes with a stone, I make sure my shovel's right underneath his bucket so that the stone doesn't sneak underneath these pipes and pull them right up. It's another issue too. If you're solo and you're in a wheelbarrow, come along your trench every 10 feet or 8 feet and pin it down with some stone. Make sure your pipe's on the bottom of the trench. Take the extra effort. Do something nice for yourself or your customer. They deserve it. And if you want to grow your company and be successful, then you ought to do it. So yeah, that's the last point I'm going to make. Brandon's sitting over there. And yeah, I'll show you around the job site and we'll call it a video. It's a little longer, but we're just BSing with you guys. And leave your comments down below. Love to hear from you. Hit me with your questions, and I'll get back to you. Thanks. All right, so here's around the front side. Don't mind the fabric that's closest to the fence. It all needs to be reset. This was just completely blown out. We had a windstorm, freaking thunderstorm, so This drain is gonna get terminated back over here. They had a change. They want pavers in here. So the people watching and stuff, they're not standing in gravel or whatever else, not tracking it. So this all is getting modified. Either way, over here we've got a little bit of a mess. This is how we've been using access for this, and this is our base for our pavers. This is still about 8 inches low or so, but this is about 20 ton of number 4 compacted. We're gonna give it like 3 or 4 more passes. We tracked it in good with the machine. You can kind of see we had to go pretty shallow with this French drain. Same thing, pavers over here, but it has yet to be burrito wrapped, but it comes down and it comes straight into here. And we've got this woven fabric coming underneath to separate this base from the subgrade, you know, the subsoil, so it doesn't rise up in our number 4 and intermingle. But this is the biggest French drain I've ever built. This is pretty much going to be a completely enclosed system. We're going to do 57, and then we're going to do a very small aggregate for the base for the paver. So this will actually be a draining, one big drain. Pretty interesting. It's cool. This is our access right here. So you can kind of see it's just beat up. This is all torpedo grass in here. It looks nice when it's mowed, trust me, but it's all weeds, and they're thinking about getting this all torn up. So save them the extra money from laying out 50 pieces, you know, of plywood. You can see how far Brandon is over there, and this is why this job is what it is, because where I was just at filming is back over here, and we're having to come all the way around because it's just too tight with the landscaping over here. We can't get the machine through without doing damage to the trench. But I'll show you over here. Walking up here, you can see how much dirt we've excavated. This is just half of it right here. It's just half. We already removed the other half. So, you know, getting some French, we could really use the track right now, but you can kind of see this is finished. This drain has to be terminated. Like, that was a change order, but this needs to be terminated, and we'll get that figured out whenever we start the pavers. But all the way around here is our drainage system, and the fabric needs to be fixed, like I've said 12 times already. But the French drain is actually on the outside lip here. Reason being is we couldn't go right against the court because of these post footings, and they're big. They're like 11 inches off of the post, so we're not gonna damage that and then have the fence blow over in a windstorm. It's got this fabric on it. It's actually a big sail, so you want to make sure you keep those intact, and you don't want to disturb footings on fence posts, especially not a tall chain link like this, an 8-foot chain link with fabric on it, because it will blow over. It's actually nice too, because this will add this little lip here, this 14-inch lip or so, will add more mechanical filtration for the water shedding off the court before it gets to the French drain, keeping this cleaner. And we're gonna snap a nice line all the way down here, and we'll widen out or whatever. We'll take a measurement off this post and the post down there, snap a nice line, cut the grass out, and then we'll have a nice looking open French drain going along here. But they'll probably end up doing steel edging, which we'll come install, or their landscaper, and we'll just bring it back another 3 inches or so, install the steel edging, cut the grass out, install more 57. So come down over here. Not too bad. Got a pop up that's getting crazy right here. Need to fix that. Just got dirt in it. Some fabric got blown out of our drain right here. Our burrito wrap's all jacked up. I just recommend doing plywood where you're turning. That way you don't have to do any more grading. You can just come and seed and topsoil, and it'll all come back. It's a good time of the year to do that. You can see our fabric's all cut. So it needs to be folded back over, put in place. You can't lay pins in here. We tried to pin it. It just breaks your hand off. You guys have any good way to put pins through concrete crush, let me know. We try to hammer it, it just bends the pin. So all this needs to be fixed and remediated, and we're going to do that tomorrow before we start installing any 57. But yeah, massive French drain job, a lot going on, a lot of cleanup, and a lot of work, a lot of drainage. Thanks guys so much for tuning in. I appreciate your views, appreciate all the love I got on my other videos. It's really nice to see that, and I'm always constantly learning. Any contractors, even homeowners, they have any input, put it down below. I want to hear about it. I want to chat with you guys through the comments, and look forward to it. Peace. Little bonus. Everybody always asks, how deep do you go in your trench? How deep do you go in your French drains? As deep as I need to go is the real answer, but at a minimum, I'll go 12 inches when it's real flat, and stick to an inch every 8 feet if you got a transit laser. Full bubble on the level works well. Might be a little more than 1% because you can't really gauge after the bubble's pinned, but full bubble, can't go wrong with that. When in doubt, break out the garden hose. If you're a DIY, run some water in the trench, just go down with the shovel and knock out your high spots. Make sure that behind you is dry, and you're in that money zone, man. So answer is as deep as I need to go. I've done French drains that are 3 feet deep. I've done French drains that were 12 to 18 inches deep. So just make sure she's draining right. It's, you know, shit flows downhill. Thanks, guys. Peace.